Namaste everyone. In today's video, we're going to focus on Muni Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 2.18. In this particular sutra, Muni Patanjali is helping us to understand the concept of drishya or creation and how this correlates to our yogic sadhana and our overall understanding of yoga. So let's take a good look at this sutra, break it up into words and start understanding it a little bit deeper. So the sutra itself goes, Prakasha kriya sthiti shilam bhutendriyatmakam bhogapavargarthan drishyam. Alright, so that is the sutra. Now let us hear each of the words and start breaking them up step by step. So the first word that we're introduced to over here is prakash, and prakash refers to light or illumination. The second word is kriya, which refers to action or an action-oriented process. The third is sthiti, and sthiti refers to stability or a particular position. The next word is shila, and this is indicating a property or having the property of. Finally, we come to the next two words, which are some of the most important words in this entire sutra, which is bhuta and indriya. Now, bhuta is referring to the Pancha Mahabhutas from the Sankhya theory. If you haven't studied that already, it refers to the 5 elements. And then, of course, we're introduced to the indriyas, which are referring to our 5 sense organs. Then as we move forward, we come to the next word, which is atmakam or atmaka. And here we're given the understanding of what is the nature of, what is it composed of, its inner essence. And then we come to bhoga and apavarga. Now, bhoga refers to something that we're experiencing. We've even heard this word in a couple of previous sutras. So it's talking about our experience. And then, of course, we come to the next word, which is apavarga. And here we're told the liberation process, the final I don't want to say final destination, but the absolute liberation process or the absolution. And then we come to the next word, which is artha, and artha is for the purpose of. And finally, of course, the last word is drishya, which is referring to that which is seen or the creation process. So overall, what the sutra is trying to tell us is that there are a few key elements that form drishya, and these key elements have the qualities of light, action, stability, and as well as a few others like the Pancha Mahabhutas and the Indriyas. So it's kind of giving us like a summary of what are the key qualities that help us to form the drishya. So now that we know this, let's get into understanding the sutra a little bit further and see what it means. So first things first, the sutra is quite a lot influenced by the Sankhya theory, and it's talking to us about light, which is illumination. It's also talking to us of action and stability. So this directly correlates to sattva, which represents light, rajas, which represents action or kriya, and tamas, which represents stability but sometimes also inertia. So there's a direct correlation between Sankhya theory and the yoga theory in this case. And then we're also told how do these 3 key elements or principles work together to give us certain formats. Now, in the first case, when these 3 come together, and if they come together in a very inert, non-animate way, they form the Mahabhutas or the elements, which they're not living organisms, but they're still chemical compounds and they exist, and we need them for the world to function and for creation to exist. And so everything in nature is ultimately a creation of the 5 elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas. And depending on whether those Mahabhutas are arranged in a sattvic, rajasic or tamasic way, all of that comes together to kind of give us the Pancha Mahabhutas and the elements. However, if these elements come together in a more animate way and they begin to form an organism in a very organized structural format with systems, digestive system, respiratory, etc., and then they also add in the sense organs, then that goes one step further than the Mahabhutas. So now you have actual living organisms with the 5 sense organs, with all of the different processes and functions of their body parts, and therefore that's the second type of creation that nature has. So why are we understanding all of this? We're looking at it to understand what is creation, what is the role of drishya, and what does nature create. And so the sutra is answering our question by telling us that, hey, the first thing it does is through the 5 elements, it creates compounds and everything that is inanimate. And then it goes a step further to create animate living beings, just like you and me. So that is the essential understanding of the sutra. And then it answers the next question, which is, well, that's great, right? We have these 5 elements, we have living beings, but what happens? Why? Why do we have the process of creation in place? And I think this is one of those existential questions which we're asking ourselves, and which philosophies have tried to answer for years on end, which is why? Why does creation exist? What is the meaning of all of this? And how do we add some structure and some relevance to it? So according to the yoga sadhana, creation exists for each one of us to go through a process of bhoga. Through bhoga, we experience things in creation, we experience life, and our experiences teach us something. And those teachings ultimately lead us one step closer to the process of liberation and final absolution. So this is really important, because sometimes we think, what is the point of all this? If everything's impermanent, if everything's going to change, why come into creation at all? And so what yoga is saying is that it's not that you're not supposed to renounce it. You're not supposed to say, oh, this is irrelevant. Why am I even here? Instead, you're supposed to appreciate what it's offering you, which is a chance to learn and to grow, and yet not get attached to it when the time comes to leave. So that's a very, very tricky road, because it's so subtle. It's so difficult to recognize when you're getting attached versus when you're actually just going through experiences as your duty in life. So it's a tricky one, but that's what it means. And finally, it's explaining to us also that what tends to happen is we look at bhoga, the experiences of life, and we get fascinated and we feel like, wow, this is amazing, I want to keep coming back. And that's why the cycle of birth and death keeps going forward. The karmic cycle keeps moving because we keep wanting to come back. But what the sutra is trying to say is that if we realize that there's pain as well in bhoga, it's not all hunky-dory, it's not going to be like that all the time. There's coming into bhoga is pain, and sometimes just staying with that liberation process is much more liberating. When we come to that realization, that's when we choose not to want to enter into the process of birth and death again, and we just take a step back, enter deeply into the yogic sadhana and move towards liberation. But this is a very long journey spread across lifetimes. It takes a long time to think that way and to come to that realization. So the sutra is just making us aware. It's not saying that that's it, you've chosen yoga and now you have to go on this ultimate path and immediately reach the end goal. It's not that. It's a journey and it takes time, and we kind of have to stick with the process until we finally feel like, I don't even want this bhog anymore. I just want to move towards the liberation process. And that takes a lot of time. So this is what the sutra is trying to tell us. It's just shedding light on the process of drishya, what it's all about, and how we can understand it a little bit better as yoga sadhaks. I also want to add that each of us are modern day yoga practitioners. We live in cities, we live in settlements. It's difficult to apply everything from the sutras into our lives, but we're trying to understand it a little bit better and be as honest as we can as yoga students to really kind of nourish our understanding of yoga much better. So that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, drop your comments in the comment section below, subscribe to our channel to keep supporting and to see new videos, and we look forward to seeing you in the next workshop or in the next class. Link is in the description, and we're going to see you very soon. Take care of yourself until then, and I'll catch you soon. Namaste.